After months of unsettling silence, Prince Harry has finally stepped out of the shadows with a plan so unexpected, it has even those closest to him stunned. This isn't just a media move, it's something deeper and more personal. Royal insiders. Whisper of tension brewing for months, if not years. And now it seems Harry has reached a critical tipping point. No longer willing to be a passive figure in the monarchy's sidelines, he is taking a bold step that may very well shift how the world sees him, his late mother, and even the future of his fractured royal relationships. The public has been waiting, some with curiosity, others with skepticism. Harry's silence wasn't just a lack of words, it was the weight of something brewing behind palace gates and Hollywood walls. His retreat from the spotlight sparked speculation from every corner of the press. Was he done speaking out? Had he accepted his role in exile? Or was something far more strategic unfolding behind closed doors? The media took stabs in the dark, but now the mystery surrounding his quiet months is beginning to unravel. And what's surfacing is far more complicated than another podcast or glossy magazine cover. At the heart of this new plan lies a bombshell. Prince Harry is reportedly preparing to spearhead a new documentary-style project, one tied not to scandal, but to the enduring memory of his mother, Princess Diana. This isn't a tabloid stunt or a PR distraction. It's a pointed, deliberate act that comes at a critical time. In just a couple of years, it will mark 30 years since the tragic death of Diana, a moment still frozen in the minds of millions. For Harry, that anniversary is more than a date. It's a looming reminder of unfinished business, unresolved grief, and an opportunity to reclaim a legacy many believe has been misunderstood, mishandled, or forgotten altogether. Netflix, the streaming giant behind the couple's original multi-million-dollar deal, has seen interest dwindle and headlines shift focus toward speculation about divorce and division. That deal, set to expire in 2025, is now back in the spotlight, but not for the reasons executives once hoped. Rather than deliver the kind of content people expected, feel-good stories, celebrity friendships, or polished documentaries, Harry appears to be rewriting the narrative entirely. And the timing couldn't be more precise. With public fatigue toward palace drama setting in, and Meghan shifting gears toward lifestyle branding and California cool, Harry's sudden pivot to Diana's memory is both a masterstroke and a mystery. So why now? Why this? And what does it say about where Prince Harry really stands today in his marriage, in his family, and in the public's eye? The answers are beginning to surface, and they point to something far more emotional, risky, and powerful than the world anticipated. Let's unpack how we got to this explosive moment. For Prince Harry, the silence wasn't just a pause. It was a retreat born out of emotional exhaustion and quiet devastation. While the world speculated and judged from a distance, behind closed doors he was navigating something far heavier than media pressure. At the heart of it all was a broken family bond, a rift so deep that even years after stepping back from royal duties, the wounds continued to bleed. His relationship with King Charles had frayed beyond recognition, and any hope of reconciliation with Prince William seemed to evaporate with every ignored phone call and frosty headline. The two brothers, who once stood shoulder to shoulder at their mother's funeral, were now symbolic of something far more tragic, a royal legacy crumbling from within. And as if the emotional distance wasn't enough, Harry found himself stripped of the very protections he once took for granted. The removal of his royal security detail didn't just spark headlines, it shattered his sense of safety. For a man who had been stalked by the media his entire life, this wasn't just about risk. It was about feeling unprotected in a world that had always been dangerous. For the first time in his life, Harry wasn't just a prince without a title. He was a man without a shield. And that reality hit harder than anyone around him seemed to understand. Meghan, by contrast, was moving differently. She had pivoted swiftly into a lifestyle empire mode, carving out partnerships, brand deals, and a glamorous vision of the future rooted firmly in California. Her resilience, some say, was unshakable. But for Harry, it wasn't that simple. While Meghan processed through productivity, Harry was still grieving, still searching, still waiting to feel understood. He wasn't ready to turn pain into business. He needed to find purpose first. And that divergence from her business-first momentum versus his emotionally grounded stillness created more than just scheduling conflicts. It widened the quiet space between them, both privately and professionally. At the core of Harry's internal battle was an identity crisis that never quite left him. He was a father trying to shield his children from the very spotlight that had scarred him. A husband trying to support a partner who had endured her own public crucifixion. And still, beneath it all, he remained a son haunted by the loss of a mother who had become more of a myth than a memory in the eyes of the world. That pressure to protect, to honor, to rebuild crashed against him daily. And now, with the looming anniversary of Princess Diana's death fast approaching, that inner tension has reached its boiling point. This is no coincidence. The emotional timing of Harry's latest move isn't accidental. It's deeply symbolic. 30 years since Diana's passing, and her youngest son finds himself at a similar crossroads. Where she once rebelled against royal tradition to tell her truth, Harry is now poised to follow her footsteps in a way that feels deeply personal. The timing isn't about publicity cycles or production deadlines. It's about legacy. It's about taking control of the narrative before history does it for him. And in doing so, Harry is trying to reclaim something sacred, not just for himself, but for his children, and for the memory of the woman he never stopped loving. With that emotional backdrop, let's dive into the deal that's fueling all this. When Prince Harry and Meghan Markle signed their groundbreaking $100 million deal with Netflix in 2020, it was heralded as a seismic shift in how royalty would engage with the modern world. No longer confined by palace protocol or royal press offices, the couple was given full creative freedom and a platform that could reach every corner of the globe. It was more than a business deal. It was a statement of independence, a powerful message to the monarchy, and a promise to tell their side of the story on their own terms. But 4 years later, that golden promise is on the verge of collapse, and the pressure to deliver something extraordinary is growing louder with each passing day. So far, the results have been mixed. Meghan's foray into entertainment has centered around her lifestyle brand and upcoming plans for a second season of her light, feel-good series. While the first wave attracted curiosity, it failed to hold long-term critical weight. Her vision, steeped in positivity, wellness, and curated personal experiences, hasn't matched the gravity or controversy that audiences have come to expect from the couple's narrative. It feels safe, even polished, but perhaps too far removed from the storm that still hovers around their names. Meanwhile, the upcoming release of the Polo docuseries, expected later in 2024, is being quietly watched from the sidelines. Centered on Harry's passion for the sport, the series promises elegance and a glimpse into elite circles. But early whispers suggest that executives behind closed doors are hoping for much more. This isn't what they signed up for. Netflix didn't pour millions into this deal for sports documentaries and product placement. What they wanted, and what they still crave, is impact. They want content that ignites headlines, sparks conversation, and dominates algorithms. And right now, they know the only way to achieve that is through scandal or sentiment, and Harry holds both. The real issue is urgency. The deal expires in 2025, and the couple's creative pipeline appears to be stalling. Internal delays shifting. Focus and relentless public scrutiny have all combined into a formula that makes studios nervous. And public sentiment, once sympathetic, has started to splinter. Some viewers have grown tired of royal drama. Others remain hungry for deeper truths. But no one wants more silence. And in this vacuum, Netflix sees an opening, even if it's uncomfortable. The story of Princess Diana, retold by her son, with all its emotional weight and personal confession. This is where the stakes shift. Harry's potential plan to create a Diana-focused project could realign the entire strategy. It's emotional gold. The story of a beloved icon, told not by historians or distant commentators, but by her own son. It taps into grief, legacy, and unresolved trauma in a way that few stories can. And for Netflix, it would be the jewel in a crumbling crown. One final swing that could justify the millions spent and cement Harry's narrative outside the confines of royal control. But it's risky. If handled poorly, it could be seen as exploitative. If done right, it could be redemptive. Which brings us to the heart of the story, and what Harry is reportedly planning next. Whispers began surfacing just weeks ago, subtle at first, easily dismissed as speculation. But then came the reports. A Diana documentary, produced, maybe even hosted, by Prince Harry himself. According to a bold claim by the Daily Express, initial talks are already underway. A multi-episode series, possibly 2 or 3 parts, with an intended release around 2027, timed precisely to mark the 30th anniversary of his mother's death. If true, it would be Harry's most personal project yet, and one that could completely redefine not only his public image, but the public memory of Diana herself. But here's the twist. Meghan, the one person most expected to stand beside him on any major production, was reportedly caught off guard by the plan. Whether it's a case of poor communication or deliberate separation of creative paths, the suggestion that Harry would move forward without her full involvement adds a fresh layer of intrigue. Meghan has always been the calculated force behind many of their joint ventures, and yet this move feels different, less commercial, more emotional, more raw. Some say this is the project Harry has been carrying for years, waiting for the right time. And now, with his back against the wall and the world watching, he's finally ready to release it. Still, not everyone is convinced. Insiders close to Netflix have already tried to temper expectations. Some deny any official deal has been made, calling the rumors premature. Others, more cautiously, admit that discussions may be happening quietly, but insist nothing is confirmed. This gap between private plans and public denial has only fueled speculation further. Why such secrecy? Why such hesitation? Perhaps because this project isn't just about content. It's about control. It's about who gets to tell Diana's story, and how much truth the palace, or Harry himself, is prepared to reveal. There's another complication. For years, Netflix seemed passive, almost indifferent, to fresh Diana content. Their crown jewel, The Crown, addressed her arc with elegance and dramatization, but the platform hasn't pursued standalone projects directly focused on her legacy since. So why now? Why allow Diana's story to be revisited with such intensity, and by her son no less? The answer, it seems, lies in timing, opportunity, and the unique access Harry brings. No one else alive can speak to her legacy from such a personal place. No one else can walk through memories still sealed away from public view. Whether through letters, private footage, or first-hand encounters, Harry's connection gives the project an authenticity no other creator could match. But authenticity does not mean immunity. Public reaction is already divided. Some welcome the idea with open hearts, eager to hear from the one person whose pain mirrors their own sense of loss. Others raise eyebrows, warning that this could be yet another chapter in Harry's ongoing feud with the palace. More content, more exposure, more drama dressed in sentiment. And the ethical dilemma looms large. Is Harry paying tribute to his mother or monetizing her memory? That question alone may determine whether this project heals wounds or reopens them. The stakes are higher than ever. Harry isn't just risking public opinion. He's risking trust. From his family, from his supporters, from the very people who still see Diana as sacred ground. If he moves forward, he'll need to walk a delicate line offering insight without sensationalism. Vulnerability without victimhood. It's a tightrope that not even Diana, with all her poise and grace, could have walked without consequence. But what do insiders, experts, and royal authorities think? The silence from Buckingham Palace has been deafening. No official comment, no public acknowledgement, not even a gentle deflection. And in the world of royal communication, silence can speak louder than any statement. It's the kind of strategic non-response that signals discomfort, if not outright disapproval. Behind those ancient walls, the idea of Prince Harry producing a documentary about Princess Diana without palace oversight is far from welcome. The trust is gone, and every new public move he makes only deepens the palace's resolve to keep him at arm's length. According to insiders, reconciliation between Harry and the senior royals remains a distant dream. Whatever thread once held him to King Charles has frayed into near invisibility. And Prince William, who has spent years fiercely protecting their mother's memory from being politicized or commercialized, is said to be quietly furious. While Harry may believe he's preserving Diana's legacy, William sees something else entirely. a brother drifting further into a version of history shaped by media deals, Hollywood edits, and emotional wounds left too long to heal. No one in the palace is picking up the phone, and no one's expecting that to change anytime soon. The reaction from the media, though, is split right down the middle. Some experts view this move as a bold step toward healing, both personally for Harry and symbolically for the monarchy. They argue that allowing Diana's story to be retold, not through fiction but through her son's eyes, could bridge generational gaps and renew interest in royal history from a more compassionate lens. But others are far less forgiving. They see this not as healing, but as provocation. Another chapter in Harry's war against the institution that shaped and arguably damaged him. They fear it will reopen old wounds, paint the palace as callous, and reinforce a narrative of victimhood that many believe has already been pushed too far. Royal biographers who have spent decades studying the family's inner dynamics share a similar skepticism. To them, the issue isn't just the project, it's the messenger. Harry's relationship with the truth has been questioned time and again in the aftermath of his memoir and Netflix series. For many seasoned commentators, the idea that he would now assume the role of curator for his mother's memory is troubling. The trust required for such a task simply no longer exists, and until it does, every word, every edit, every frame will be scrutinized under a microscope. Online, the divide is just as sharp. On one side are supporters who believe Harry is finally stepping into his true purpose, honoring Diana in a way no one else could. They argue he's breaking through royal censorship and reclaiming a personal story that was hijacked by history. On the other side are critics who question the timing, the intent, and the integrity of the project. They ask whether this is about remembrance or relevance, and whether Diana's legacy is being weaponized for personal redemption. Past royal documentaries offer a cautionary tale. Some, like the deeply controlled commemorations of royal anniversaries, were praised for their restraint and respect. Others, particularly when driven by emotion or perceived bitterness, were criticized as exploitative. This new project teeters on that edge. One wrong move, one overly personal revelation, and it could become another flashpoint in the ongoing battle between tradition and transparency. Now let's examine how Meghan fits into this unfolding narrative. Meghan Markle's silence on Harry's rumored Diana project has been as intriguing as the documentary itself. In a partnership that has, until now, appeared tightly aligned both personally and professionally, her absence from the headlines surrounding this move speaks volumes. Insiders suggest Meghan has been increasingly focused on her own brand-building efforts, planning new projects under her banner that lean heavily into lifestyle, food, wellness, and image control. She's crafting a future rooted in glossy elegance, not emotional excavation. And perhaps for the first time, Harry's creative path is veering sharply away from hers. Those closest to the couple say this divergence isn't necessarily a rift, but a reflection of their evolving priorities. Meghan has always been pragmatic, analytical, and deliberate in how she approaches storytelling. She's business-first strategic in every move, careful in every word. Harry, on the other hand, is driven more by feeling than finesse. His storytelling is raw, rooted in grief and longing for understanding. That contrast was manageable when the two were telling their joint story, defending themselves as a unit. But when the subject shifts to Diana, when the wounds become older and more personal, Harry's journey becomes one Meghan can't fully share. And that emotional divide is starting to show. There is speculation that she could still play a role behind the scenes. Joint executive producing remains on the table. But there are also whispers that Meghan may be deliberately stepping back, allowing Harry to carry the emotional and public burden alone. Some insiders believe this is a protective move, giving him space to reclaim something sacred. Others suspect it's a calculated decision to avoid the inevitable backlash should the project stumble into controversy. After all, Meghan has long been the lightning rod for criticism. Keeping her distance could be both personal preservation and brand protection. What makes this even more delicate is the tightrope Harry must walk between personal tribute and media spectacle. Diana's memory is not just emotional currency, it's a powerful symbol, one that doesn't fit neatly into Meghan's polished branding. The question becomes, how do you honor a legacy steeped in tragedy without jeopardizing a future built on optimism and control? Meghan's silence may not be resistance, but restraint. A quiet way of saying, "This one is yours." Yet behind closed doors, the dynamic remains complex. The couple is still a team, but this particular mission, with all its ghosts and vulnerabilities, feels different. It's Harry's reckoning. And for now, Meghan appears willing to let him face it without a safety net. With all that weighty emotion and drama, let's shift gears to what the audience really wants, how it unfolds on screen. If this documentary truly moves forward, it won't look or sound like anything the public has seen from the royals before. This won't be a sterile tribute wrapped in ceremonial music and stock footage. If Harry has his way, it will be intimate, raw, and personal, structured, not around palace protocol, but emotional reality. Viewers wouldn't be watching the fairy tale. They'd be stepping into the shadows behind it, through the eyes of the boy who lived through its unraveling. The format, insiders suggest, could unfold across 2 or 3 episodes, each anchored in a distinct chapter of Diana's life, but woven together through a deeply emotional thread. Harry's voice. Imagine the opening moments revisiting childhood, memories, the ones not often spoken aloud. Not the iconic images of Diana at charity galas, but quiet stories told by the people she touched. From hospital nurses to the woman she greeted on the street without cameras rolling, it would be a mosaic of voices, unpolished but powerful, sharing moments that never made headlines. And those fragments would be anchored by archive footage, handwritten notes, and long-lost recordings, giving the audience access to a Diana that feels both iconic and achingly real. The biggest question, of course, is how present Harry will be on screen. Hosting such a project himself is a double-edged sword. His involvement guarantees attention, emotional resonance, and credibility. But his ability to guide interviews without making them about himself could make or break the tone. Critics argue that he should remain behind the scenes as an executive producer, letting a seasoned interviewer navigate the terrain. But Harry may not want distance this time. This is personal. It's his mother, and distancing himself from the lens might feel like another layer of detachment he's no longer willing to accept. Tone will be everything. If this project leans too far into dramatization, it risks being dismissed as another chapter in a media war. But if handled with restraint, respect, and vulnerability, it could offer something rare. An honest, emotionally balanced portrait of Diana, from the one person who still sees her as more than a symbol. The aim would be to uncover the Diana that lived beyond the royal frame. The woman who wrote letters, who volunteered in secret, who cried in silence, and who, above all, loved fiercely in a world that punished her for it. Viewers wouldn't be tuning in just for nostalgia, they'd come for revelations. Not explosive scandals, but deeply human truths. New insights that change how history remembers her. Forgotten interviews. Voices from people who were silenced or simply never asked. There may be moments of controversy, but the draw would be emotional closure. For Harry, for his family, for millions who still feel the sting of her loss. In a world where everything royal is curated to perfection, this project could be the first to break through with authenticity. That brings us to the big question. Why now? And what does Harry himself stand to gain or lose? For Prince Harry, the question isn't just should he do it? It's why now? Why step into the most emotionally charged project of his life? When his relationships are in ruins, the world is divided, and every move he makes invites criticism. The answer lies in timing, but also in necessity. This isn't just another chapter in his public saga. It's a moment of reckoning, a final chance to take control of his narrative before it's completely swallowed by controversy, silence, or worse, irrelevance. And in doing so, Harry may be risking everything he has left. The 30th anniversary of Princess Diana's death isn't just a date on a calendar. It's a cultural event, a haunting milestone that will ignite headlines, specials, and global reflections. If Harry stays silent, others will speak in his place. If he lets that moment pass untouched, it becomes another year that someone else defines his mother's legacy for him. But if he moves forward, if he tells her story on his terms, it becomes more than a tribute. It becomes an act of personal healing, one that might finally quiet the noise in his own head. one that might restore a piece of what fame, grief, and betrayal have torn apart. But that path is littered with danger. The very act of opening up again risks the backlash he knows all too well. There's the fear of oversharing, saying too much, digging too deep, not because he wants attention, but because the weight of truth is unpredictable. What if he reveals something the public isn't ready to hear? What if his version of Diana's life conflicts with the one his brother protects so fiercely? And, even more terrifying, what if, after all the pain, no one listens? And yet, there's power here. A successful documentary could shift everything. It could reopen doors at Netflix, renewing a deal that's been faltering under unmet expectations. It could prove Harry still has influence, reach, and emotional depth that goes beyond tabloid fodder. More importantly, it could reconnect him with an audience that once believed in him before the scandals, the memoirs, and the headlines pushed them away. This isn't about staying relevant through gossip. It's about making relevance mean something. There's also a deeper layer, one few are talking about. Harry isn't just a grieving son or a public figure trying to reclaim legacy. He's a father now. Archie and Lilibet are growing up in a world filled with noise about who their grandmother was. One day, they'll ask questions, and Harry won't want to answer them through headlines or faded photographs. He'll want to show them to her. The woman who shaped him, who defied expectation, who broke under the same system that nearly broke him. This documentary isn't just about the past, it's about the future and what kind of truth his children inherit. And so, with his marriage strained, his family ties fractured, and the world watching closely, Harry finds himself at a crossroads. Redemption or ruin, connection or collapse, a quiet retreat into silence, or one final defiant stand to tell the story the way it was meant to be told. Finally, let's look at how the world might receive this, from royal watchers to streaming fans. Public and media response to any royal project is unpredictable, but when the subject is Diana, the mother who captured hearts around the world, and the storyteller is her exiled son, it's bound to erupt. The memory of Harry and Meghan, the couple's explosive Netflix docuseries, still lingers. It was a global hit in terms of viewership, but critically, it split audiences wide open. Some felt it was a needed confrontation of royal injustice. Others saw it as indulgent, tone-deaf, and manipulative. That series set a precedent. Whatever Harry releases next won't be judged fairly, it will be judged fiercely. This Diana project won't get a free pass. It will be scrutinized, dissected, and possibly weaponized. In the United Kingdom, the mood is complex. Polls consistently show growing skepticism toward royal exposés, particularly those involving Harry. Many feel the public has already heard enough. The memoir, the interviews, the documentaries, it's created fatigue, a sense of too much too soon. But Diana still breaks through that noise. Her legacy remains largely untouchable. Even among staunch monarchists, she is remembered with reverence. The question now is whether the public trusts Harry enough to be the guardian of her story, or whether his involvement undermines the very purity people attach to her memory. In the United States and across the globe, though, the tone is likely to be different. Diana was, and still is, a global icon. Her humanitarian work, her tragic end, and her undeniable charisma made her beloved far beyond British borders. And Harry, with his American ties and emotional openness, is still seen by many as a sympathetic figure, especially in a culture that values personal truth over tradition. A Diana documentary told from the perspective of a grieving son may find its strongest resonance outside the very country that once crowned her. From Netflix's perspective, this project could be a gamble worth taking. Their algorithm thrives on emotion, conflict, and legacy, and this story delivers all three. The streaming platform has mastered the art of packaging pain into prestige content. If the show captures enough genuine emotion, interwoven with never-before-seen material, it could dominate global charts, renew viewer engagement, and possibly restore confidence in the Sussex brand. Financially and strategically, Netflix may view the risk as minimal because controversy, after all, drives clicks. But this won't be a smooth ride. Critics will line up, pens sharpened, ready to analyze every word, every frame. Historians will fact-check timelines. Royal watchers will dissect body language. Commentators will argue over whether the tone is reverent or opportunistic. Even the choice of interviewees will come under fire. Was it too curated? Too emotional? Too one-sided? One misstep, and what was meant to be a tribute could quickly spiral into a media firestorm. Then there's social media, the real battlefield of public opinion. Praise will come fast, especially from fans who've followed Harry's journey from the start. They'll call it brave, vulnerable, redemptive. But so will criticism. Conspiracy theories will surge. Hashtags will explode. Old interviews will resurface. Every royal commentator with a platform will stake their opinion, and none of them will agree. And as it all unfolds, Harry won't just be watching. He'll be at the center of it, trying to hold the narrative steady while the world spins it in every direction. Because this isn't just another documentary. It's a moment. One that could shape how a generation remembers Diana, how history treats Harry, and how the public defines truth versus spectacle. Here's how you can stay tuned as this story unfolds. So, is Prince Harry really launching a Diana documentary? The signals are there. Quiet meetings behind the scenes. Whispers from production circles. Strategic silence from the palace. And a wave of emotional timing that feels anything but accidental. As the Netflix deal edges toward its expiration and Harry's public standing hangs in limbo, this project might not just be a possibility. It might be his final play. A move to reclaim control, to close the loop on a mother's unfinished story, and to remind the world that behind the headlines and heartache stands a son still searching for peace. The coming months will be crucial. Watch for Netflix's next round of announcements. If this documentary is happening, it will have to enter development soon. And pay close attention to the palace. Their silence has been thunderous, but it can't last forever. Whether it's a subtle press leak or a carefully worded statement, they will make their position known. And then there's Harry himself. If there's one thing we've learned from his past, it's that he speaks when we least expect it, and when the world is listening the hardest. Leaks will trickle. Sources will contradict one another. Some will claim it's a tribute. Others will swear it's revenge. But in that swirl of noise, one thing is certain. This project could redefine everything. Harry's image, Diana's memory, the very role of modern royalty. This isn't just another story. It's the one that could change the game forever. What do you think? Would you watch it? Would you trust Harry to tell Diana's story? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more exclusive updates. As this unfolds, the next chapter is coming, and it might be the most powerful one yet.